Hi, Anna. Thanks for joining me for Lead Time Chats today.
Hi, Jean. Thank you for having me.
So today, our topic is something I'm really excited to talk to you about, which is how software development is a team ultra endurance sport. And the reason I'm particularly excited about it is I honestly know nothing about ultra endurance sports, but I really love when people take what they're doing outside of work, what they're passionate about there, and draw parallels and insights between work and the other parts of their lives. And so Anna, at work, you're a director of engineering at Twitter, and then you, in your personal life, do a lot of ultra endurance sports. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about what role does that play in your life? How did you get into it? I'm sure other people also just don't know that much about it.
Right. Let's see. So as you said, I am a director of engineering at Twitter, and so before, I guess, let's see, starting from a little bit before that, I have always been active all my life, physically active, and did various things, but nothing endurance, like no running much. And when I had my children, I have twins, and when they were 5 months old, I went back to work full time, and I found that I had no more time left for my favorite physical activities of playing ping pong or dancing or all sorts of stuff. And so I found the easiest way to get physical activity was to just put my running shoes on and go outside and run in the neighborhood. And that was enjoyable. And at some point, I somehow got myself into doing a half marathon, San Francisco half marathon. And I enjoyed it so much that I literally that same day, recovering from the race on my couch, I was figuring out how I can sign up for the next thing, which turned out to be a full marathon. And ultimately, I just stumbled upon trail running and fell in love with it completely. There was no turning back. I found that it was the much needed me time where I was alone. I am the kind of person who can't do meditation sitting still, but meditation running is really what works for me. Also, it's my time to listen to audiobooks, podcasts, think about some problem that I have at work or home. So really, really enjoyable, and just enjoying the nature as well. And I'm blessed to live in Bay Area here with just gorgeous places to run and explore. So that's how I stumbled into this. And then casually as I started meeting more runners and learning about local races, I kind of started increasing the distances and just exploring, using running as a way to explore also. Even when I went on business trips to New York or Philadelphia or somewhere else, and I usually have only an hour to see a new place, the easiest way to do that would be, again, put my shoes on and just go back and run around, some new area. And so that always was my kind of tool to explore and recharge wherever I go. And so, yeah, here we are. And this year, I'm not a serious runner, and obviously I started late. So it's more my kind of the thing I do for my own recharging and enjoyment. This year I do occasional races. This year I did a couple of 30Ks and half marathon, and I'm planning to do a full marathon in Death Valley in a few weeks, which I'm really excited about. And again, not planning to have any sort of wins or anything, but really explore. It's an area that is just gorgeously beautiful, Titus Canyon, that I've always dreamed about running along the trail, and so looking forward to that. So yep.
It's interesting because I have two kids too, and like I totally understand not being able to find time for yourself, but it sounds like you started off just running around the neighborhood, but now I imagine those like long distance runs actually do take up quite a bit of time. But I was excited to talk to you because I don't know, maybe it was in my subconscious, but I just yesterday signed up for my first half marathon.
Congratulations.
in February. So I'm going to wait till after Thanksgiving and then start training. But yeah,
That's
very
awesome.
exciting.
That's awesome.
So with engineering and long distance running and ultra endurance sports, both playing such a large part in your life, what are some of the parallels you've observed between the two?
Yeah. You know what you said about how the runs turn into longer runs, right? And that actually take a bit more time. It becomes clear over time that this is, well, you might be enjoying this. There is family and people around you and friends. And so it's even though running seems like a solo sport, it's a team sport. And it's a team sport in a number of ways. One is who you train with, possibly, and who you learn from, and how you recharge and observe and get motivated by folks around you. But also it's your team, your home team that supports you, that works with your schedule, that gets excited for you, that that gives you a hug when mom comes from a run, maybe tired or maybe excited. Yeah. And so yeah, it's all the support that I think goes such a long way and counts as well. So that's as far as I feel there is a connection with team aspect of that. But the other parallels, I see a lot of parallels, and especially I find myself as I go specifically on a long run by myself or during a race, for some reason, I immediately start drawing the parallels with what happens at work with software development teams. And some of the aspects are thinking about why you're doing this. Why is this important? Why is it important for you? And it doesn't have to be anything, incredible, but it's something that matters to you. What is the goal that you have, or goals? And the goals might be changing. Why is it something that gets you excited? I think without having that why, it's hard to stay motivated in the long run. And so some of those goals might be short-term ones, and some of those, for me, for example, I think at this point, my first goals were, oh, I just want to see how it is, and it sounds cool. And then I think now I've gotten to really appreciate the process of running, not just sometimes maybe winning races or not. And so for me, I would love to be able to run into my 80s and 90s. So for me, I think it's running and staying healthy with that. So not just overexerting yourself. So why is important, and the goals. And I think also there is so much that to enjoy to enjoy running, or to enjoy your work, which we spend a significant portion of our lives at. Planning is a huge part of that. And all that goes into planning, actually having a strategy, not just day-to-day being busy, strategy, understanding where you're going and why, understanding the environment and understanding your own and your team's strengths and weaknesses, where you might need complementary skills. Or maybe, as I discovered the other weekend when I went on a race and it was up Mount Tamalpais and it was incredibly tough, I realized that I need to do more training going uphill, because I enjoy downhills, but not uphills as much. And my quads are still slowly recovering. But I think that is also true, and that translates to how we do at work. And sometimes we have, as we, for example, partner with folks, we might have complementary skills, or we might have missing skill sets on the team, or also understanding like what the route on a race will look like, and what you actually need to train for. Maybe it's going to be completely flat as a pancake, or it's going to be extremely hilly. Similarly, understanding the specifics of a particular undertaking at work, complexity of the project, complexity of the environment, who you need to work with, the stakeholders, who you need to align with, depend on, right, and so on. So there's so much that goes into that. So not only knowing the goal, but also acknowledging and really doing your homework, understanding the reality and how to plan for that. And then once you have that sort of understood, then practicing and actually put in the hard work for the things that are necessary. And importantly, rest should be a part of the plan as well. And I find that, there is the aspect of how we say stress is not good for people, but then stress can be different. And if we think about physical activity or building muscles or building stamina in endurance sports, you actually need some amount of stress. For example, the muscles get broken up, and then the next stage, if you let them, they will build up and recover. If you don't build in that recovery time, then you just burn out and risk injury, which I think is very much true at work and at life outside of sport as well, especially during these times now, during the pandemic, and not having a good divisive line between work and life.
Yeah, I think the learning from sports of like professional athletes take rest and recovery really, really seriously. And I remember going to I think it was like a women's leadership retreat, and one of the two of the speakers were these two Olympians. I think one was a swimmer and a volleyball player, and they really hammered that in, because it's just something that we don't like. Yeah, oh, if you're burnt out, take some PTO, but like it's not really built in, like, right, into how people think about not even just like a year, but like their whole life and like their whole career. One thing I really appreciated was how you talked about both like the why, and like I imagine like, why am I running right now? Like what, why am I, like, how does this run fit into my training, or how does this race fit into whatever? But then also the why behind like zooming out, right? For you, it's health and having an active lifestyle and being able to run into your 80s. But it makes me think of like, for an engineer, you might have to have the why of, why am I working on this feature for this cycle? Like, why am I doing this for this 2-week sprint, right? It's kind of a more sprinting thing. But then like zooming out, you also want to give them the why of, how does the team fit into the company? How does the company fit into the industry? And then ideally you could give them also a sense of like the why of their career as well. Like, how does what they're doing now fit into what they want to be doing when they're 80? And I don't think that many engineering managers are having those conversations, but hopefully.
Absolutely. And and this reminds me the question that I like to ask folks, thinking sort of maybe not into 80s, because more junior folks actually maybe have a harder time even imagining that, but right. But I think in the industry today, thinking about what do you want to do with your career, whatever the number of years that you can actually imagine yourself in, 3 years, in 10 years, 13, at this company or outside of this company, ideally, where are you going, and what's your dream? What's your dream job or state? And I think that sometimes brings really interesting conversations and hopefully helps people like see beyond the immediate sprint.
Yeah. I love to ask people, like, just kind of make it okay to talk about when you're not at this company. Because I think people, that's kind of a taboo topic, because if a direct report brings it up, people are like, they feel afraid that their manager might think they're leaving or thinking about leaving and whatnot. But I think it's really useful, because I've had people say, oh, I want to go into venture capital, or I want to start my own business, or I want to be a front end expert. And like all those are vastly different things, and like I would look out for different opportunities for each of those people.
100% with you. Yeah, I agree. And it's, I think it's interesting to apply, like, even beyond that, going to see there might be a dream job that you aren't even close to doing yet. And I think beginning or bringing the beginner's mindset to, frankly, to everything, no matter what you do, and sort of trying to avoid like preconceived notions and coming into whatever it is with sort of more experiential attitude, I think is incredibly valuable. I see over the last couple of years in my company, I guess in my group, we had quite a few new folks join and new managers, and I always ask people not to forget and not to discount that when you come fresh and you don't know how this company works, no matter how many years you have behind, right, in your experience, question everything and just try to understand, ask why, and try to understand how things are, because sometimes we, having been doing the same thing over and over, you kind of become complacent, or you take things for granted, or you create some things that are then hard to kind of undo. And I really, really value that curiosity, the unending curiosity. I think it helps, it leads to, I think it helps with just continuous learning and getting better, no matter what you do, running at whatever age, in software development, managing, baking cakes, anything.
Yeah, a lot of this is reminding me of a lead time chat I had with Dan Na. He's over at Squarespace, and he was talking about this idea of, I think it's called normalized deviance, where like when they looked into why some planes crashed, it was like the pilots were supposed to go through a checklist, but by the point the planes crashed, like no one was going through the checklist, right? Like these sorts of behaviors kind of become the norm. And then by the time, like they're there for a reason, but they become the norm to not practice them. And so when you do have new engineering managers or engineers come on, really trying to capture that, like, what, like you do that, right? like instead of, letting people, I think the default temptation is like, oh, I'm sure there's a good reason. Let me settle in and not ask too many questions since I'm the new person on the team. But really, like, I always try to encourage people, like, no, like write them all down, like everything that you notice, because you have like fresh eyes, and we just had someone come back from maternity leave. like capture all of your observations, because it's such a gift for a team to get that perspective.
Yep.
Are there any particular mindsets or practices that you've successfully transferred from running to running teams, or vice versa?
Let's see. So first one that comes to mind, and I think it probably came from software, from running teams into everything else that I do, is the idea of retrospectives. I think it's a great tool for continuous learning in general. And I find myself doing that at home too, and trying not to use the same words with my family, because that doesn't work usually well. But kind of looking back at whatever experience that you had. And I think it's especially powerful, and you can do it with yourself, and you can do it with a group. And I think it's especially powerful for shared learning and doing it with a group, looking back at how, whatever it is, the new project, the race, I always try to, after a race, even while I am running, try to capture things, but then things get more filtered out after you're done and the endorphins kick in. But essentially having those conversations with the teams about what's working, what's not working in different contexts, whether it's a project, whether it's we've spent a quarter as a new team, how are things? And then what can we change? And I think it's really, even with your own self, I find it's really important to also employ compassion and like not immediately jump into judging yourself and God forbid anyone else, but really try to understand and more with an eye towards the future. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, you cannot change the past. At least I don't know how yet. Maybe we will. Maybe there will be progress in that. But yeah, so I think that's a huge one for me. And yeah, and it's sort of rinse and repeat. Learn, plan, do your best. hard work, hard rest.
I think I'm gonna try. I think I'm gonna try finding some opportunities to run retros with my partner and my kids. Maybe on this chalkboard right here. But I do, I actually wish we had talked a few days ago because I signed up for the half marathon and then I told my partner, I was like, oh, by the way, I signed up for this half marathon in February. And I was like, maybe I should have told him beforehand because, you know, I'm going to need his support with like when I go out for, especially on the weekend runs, like, you know, probably I'm going to need his help. So I'll have to go. We'll have to retro on that. he was also like, he's like, I'm really happy you're doing this for yourself. He was also a little sad because he's dealing with some Achilles issues. So he's like, oh, I wish I could do it too. And so it's a good reminder that, you know, even things that feel like solo endeavors are pretty much always, you know, as social creatures are pretty much always team projects. Yep. Cool, Anna. Thank you so much. This is a really fun conversation and about something I don't know that much about, but I guess I'm going to start training in a few weeks. So who knows what I'll be running in a few years.
Please reach out if I can help, if I can share any experience.
I will. I'll let you know what training program I'm thinking about, and you can let me know if it seems reasonable. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation, Jen.
You too.